Allie and Richard and Tracy, they've got the continuing conversation on MAM covered. You couldn't put your trust and your faith in better people. However, I am not looking to be a talking head for the rest of my life. I cannot help these people the way they need help by being a talking head. I can only help them in the way that they need the help by being a lawyer. They need legal representation. They don't need this shit. They need legal representation, and there are thousands. And I am going to give you an updated statistic. Everybody likes to say at least 20,000 wrongfully convicted prisoners at any given time in the United States. The updated statistic from my fucking last criminal justice class is 90,000 wrongfully convicted prisoners, and not all of them have, in fact, not even a 1% have documentaries made about their case. They need legal representation. They need people to pay attention. They need people to get pissed off. Well, and it would be really easy to figure that the fuck out if the state of Wisconsin would release Teresa Halbach's actual cell phone records as opposed to the typed up on WordPerfect that Kratz presented at trial.
Yeah, that nonsense.
How in the fuck Willis allowed that to stand as evidence? I will never know, but he needs to be indicted.
Yeah, and changing the call to Barb being Stephen. No, he didn't. She didn't call Stephen that day ever, never. P.S. never. So why is his name on that list? It doesn't belong there. And somebody asked about, what do you think about the Mark Williams call to Zellner?
I think now, see, I think Williams, I think it's extremely intriguing. I think that, for Williams to call Zellner and, look, guys, for the new folks that don't know me, I'm extremely off the cuff. I've made my opinions on Wisconsin and Calumet County and, Manitowoc very well known, which is to say Keystone fucking cops would do a better job at this shit than either of those two so-called law enforcement agencies ever did. And the fact of the matter is that, Williams calling Zellner is just such a fuck up of epic proportions.
Hilarious.
Because at this stage of the game, this is what y'all need to realize. At this stage of the game, it is all psychological warfare. And Zellner is playing them like a fucking fiddle. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows exactly what they think, how they think, what they look for, how they look for it. She knows it all. And nothing will piss me off more than, look, the guilters, they irritate me, but, you can lead a horse to water, but, the ones that get me are the so-called supporters that talk shit on Zellner. And I'm like, well, first of all, where's your law degree? Second of all, where's your fucking 20 exonerations over your career? And third, you don't understand the fine mechanics that go into a court case. And I have never professed to know these things either. I have no fucking idea how post-conviction appellate work goes. My area of expertise is in police investigations and initial trial procedure. That's where my wheelhouse is at the moment. So I trust Zellner because her track record speaks for itself. So for them to make a phone call, for Williams to call her at this stage of the game, not only shows that she's on the right track, but that she's got them scared.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Because they're fucking up on the most basic of levels.
Right. Making a phone call fail. You fail.
Yeah. Just, a Sapper Cop says here, people talk crap about Zellner because they expect instant gratification, which doesn't exist in post-conviction world. Listen, Zapper, I actually made a video about this about a year ago. And I don't know if anybody remembers that specific rant, but I said something along the same lines. And I said, Making a Murderer fans are spoiled. Y'all are spoiled, motherfuckers. I was there, and I continue to be there for the West Memphis 3. And the West Memphis 3 case started happening in the very infancy of the internet. And so, you know, we kind of like this sort of back and forth and message boards and bouncing ideas off of each other and yada, yada. All of that was not a thing then. So we learned to be patient. We figured out, oh, okay, we can't have our answers immediately. The attorneys don't owe us anything. And a lot of Making a Murderer fans these days, they act like Zellner works for them. And Zellner doesn't work for you. She works for Steven. She doesn't even work for Ma and Pa Avery. She doesn't work for Carla. She doesn't work for Kayla. She doesn't work for Barb. She doesn't work for Scotty Boy. She works for Steven Avery. The only person that she owes anything to is Steven Avery. Not even Brendan Dassey. He's not her client. He has legal representation. She works for Steven Avery, and she owes y'all motherfuckers zero. Absolutely nothing. Get the fuck over yourselves, for fuck's sake. Next. Let's see.
I was typing this, but I'll just say it. Courtney's here. Courtney Skinner.
Oh, hi, Courtney.
Yeah, I was trying to, if you want to join us, I can send you the link and you can just click the link and come on here onto this call with me and Casey right now if you want to.
Many go missing in a year, mostly females, and could there be someone else buried out at the quarry? Why release / give back any bones that could be some other woman buried there? To give you the short answer to that, Russell, why release bones that could be somebody else? Because they knew that those were Teresa's bones. They knew. Make no mistake. They knew. They knew exactly whose remains those were.
Hold, please. Oh, please. Please continue.
So, how many do we have in the chat right now?
On the video, 135.
135. Perfect. This is announcement time.
Good. While you do that, I'm going to find Courtney.
Yes. All right, kids. So I have been posting on Twitter quite a bit that Allie and I had a very special announcement to make this evening. And, you know, I've been very excited about this. This has come after a lot of heavy thought on my part and a lot of planning and a lot of jockeying and a lot of figuring out my time schedule. But the announcement is that I am officially returning to the Avery Dassey case. I am officially returning to making videos that are directly connected to the Avery Dassey case. But the caveat to this is that my return will rely heavily on the Skinner investigation and how it ties in to the overall handling of the Avery and Dassey cases. So strap in, motherfuckers, because Mama's home.
Yay.
I hope you did your chores.
Do your chores.
Jesus, crotch on fire, man. It is hot as fuck in my house right now. How the hell did that happen? Like a week ago, we had snow.
There she is. Okay, Courtney, really quick. You're here with us. You made it. You're muted, but you made it. So that's a good start. Now, just unmute this window and mute your YouTube window. And we'll be...
Wait a second. Is Russell asking if I'm single?
Is he?
Because the answer to that question is no, I'm not. I'm a single mom, but I'm not single. To answer your question, I have a lovely boyfriend by the name of Max. Y'all will meet him at some point. His official title on my channel is Burn Daddy. because that's what we are. We're fire dancers. That's actually how we met, was lighting shit on fire and swinging it around our heads. And if anybody wants to actually help me get to fucking Wisconsin, I'll be happy to do some spinning at the rally.
Can you hear me now?
Oh. Yes.
There you are, Courtney. Hi, baby doll.
I don't want to be on video. You see that?
Yeah.
No thanks.
You can turn off your
I don't know how
video.
to fix that.
You can turn off your camera, Courtney.
You guys, trust me, I don't know how to do that right now, and I don't want to touch anything. Can we just talk?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If
you want to just like put your finger over the camera, that's all right.
Hey, I'm here.
I can see your veins.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, sweetie pie.
Okay, so I heard you say that I'm pretty much illiterate on the computer, and you're right.
I'm sorry if I insulted you, babe.
Well, so then I had to figure out how to get on here, and I missed the rest of it. But I just caught you saying that you needed to get here, and yeah, we need to get you here. I heard another person say today they won't come to Wisconsin either.
Oh no, I'll come.
Come on.
I'll come, but I'm not coming without my
I
body.
gotta live here. You guys need to come. Right.
Yep.
Well, let's get you here.
6 kids more. I have 3 kids, only 3. I'm done. Cut off. Nope. We're done.
Yeah. When I went in for my first prenatal appointment with my youngest son, the nurse started to say, "Would you like your tubes?" Yes. Burn them, singe them, tie them into a motherfucking bow.
Yep. Well, I didn't have a choice, but I did find out a couple of days ago that I'm having another grandbaby, so I'm happy.
Yay!
I know.
Well, I have a grandbaby too, so we're just a few grandmothers on right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
That's exciting. She doesn't want me to tell anybody yet, so nobody heard that from me.
Oh my God. Yeah, 135 fucking people.
Yeah. Well, luckily none of them know her, so that's okay. Well, not her. She's not the problem. It's the dad's family. She doesn't want the dad's family to know yet.
Oh, well, it's not like we all go to the same parties.
Yeah. Well, you're good, honey. They won't hear it. I don't know them.
Kimberly, you can believe it. This woman is actually almost 10 years older than I am. And I'm 37.
Yeah. Wow. I guess I am. How about that?
Neither one of you look that old, but
Oh, thank you.
I don't even. Are you sure you want me on here? Because I feel like I don't really know what to say. I wasn't expecting this.
Well, if you want to, add in a little bit. I mean, I was just about to get started into the whole fact that your brother's case file has been sealed by Wisconsin without the knowledge or permission of his family.
Right.
Of course it's sealed because they don't want anybody to look into it to see that this is fucking screwed up. But you know what, Courtney, I want to tell you really quick. I remember, when I talked with you and I just got so overwhelmed with what do I do? I took this to every person I knew and they all, except Casey, they all had said the same thing. Like, this is crazy, but what do we do? We just were lost. And I wasn't done with you, by the way. I was still trying to find a way. And I just recently started going live. And since I've been going live for maybe a month now or so, I've been thinking about asking you if you want to come on here with me to talk about it. Because I remember that's what you said. You just want people to know. Like, that's the first step. People just need to know. And I can do that. I mean, so I was so glad whenever I talked to Casey and she told me that she's already dug into it and she's got it figured out. Because I drew the connections, but I didn't know how to, do.
Well, and when I talk to you, Allie, it's been hard for me to get this in a place that I can even tell the story because it sounds so damn crazy. It's hard to believe. I'm right.
Yeah.
And then to get it into a way of telling it to somebody that it becomes relevant, because to me, of course it is. I see it all, but I know every word of the records and the case that I have. So it's been a little frustrating, and trust me, you're not the only person that was like, come on, or, didn't really, it's a strange story for sure.
I've shared
and
your
by you not getting back to me, it put a fire in my ass, I'll tell you. Oh, and it caused me to get to where I am right now. I never knew that case was sealed. Someone on Reddit told me. I didn't, what I have right now on Mike Glazer, I didn't have it when I talked to you.
Oh,
I
really?
knew something was up, and I've been looking at this case. I mean, it's been since 1990 that we started to try to get records about it. So we've had our own little file, me and my family, and we're like you guys are. We sit down with that thing and go crazy. You wouldn't believe how it was when it was all going on for us, but to this day, I find things, and I'm telling you, it's crazy what they went to not give us these answers. And
Right.
it's even, and my bitch about it is what happened in 2003, because we were really a pretty sweet, well, I shouldn't say that. We were a family that went in for answers. And me and my sister, we're pretty strong women. And trust me, they didn't like us. Mark Ott, I don't know if you guys know him. I keep hearing everybody, I don't know, I've been listening since 10 o'clock. I think I dozed off until you guys came on. But someone was saying that, Casey, was it you? You were saying it's the things that people don't see, the things that people don't know to look for.
Mm-hmm.
With the whole case. And that's what they're counting on. Every part of what the information they gave us was given to us thinking, they're not going to look into it. And it's been crazy to find the things, but wow. So I'm not, Allie, I understand. I still can't get it in a line to put the story out. Casey, I didn't know how to send it to you. When I went to the lawyer, she said, because what I was saying is I don't want to sue. I want this out so we can get these guys out. And she was really cool about it. She's like, okay, here's what you got to do. You keep on Casey. She's the one. You got her, and get a hold of the media.
Yeah.
The lawyer wasn't like, oh, you should have a lawyer. She knew exactly what I wanted. I don't know how to face these people again. I feel like they put me through this. They put our family through this. And now they're saying, but come back into the snake pit. Let's talk about this.
Right.
And I can't, because I'm not a lawyer person. And to be honest with you, I even told my lawyer, I don't really like lawyers. I don't really know a lot of lawyers, but geez. So there might be a couple in my life I like, Casey. Whenever you become a lawyer, I'm just kidding.
A preemptive life, fantastic.
So
it's just
the
I'm
chat.
sorry, you go.
Oh, it's okay. The chat is because we didn't give a lot of details, but if you would like to give a recap, they're asking for just a rundown of what's going on with this whole thing.
From the beginning, or
yeah.
If you want to just do like a Cliff Notes version.
Mm-hmm.
Will you, Casey? You sound a heck of a lot better than I do. I just woke up. Am I even awake? I can't even look at myself on this thing.
I've been asking myself that since 6:30 this morning, and it is now 1:13 a.m. where I am. So I feel you.
Why don't you do it, and I'll. Okay, thanks.
No problem, honey. So in 1967, Courtney's brother Walter was in foster care, and he wound up dead. And the coroner at the time ruled the death accidental by rough child's play, and actually tried to pin it on his 4-year-old sister. In 2003, the investigation was reopened, and in 2005, right about the time that the Avery case, or was it 2005, Courtney, that Kratz dropped the case?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2005,
what'd you say?
Excuse me?
You cut out, but I got you.
Okay. In 2005, right around the time that the case, the Skinner case, the investigation into Courtney's brother's death was dropped by the DA of Calumet County, who was none other than Mr. Kratz. That was right around the time that the Avery case was getting ready to hit. And so Kratz decided not to prosecute, and the excuse he gave was that he did not want to prosecute the foster father posthumously, which to me means that he knows who fucking did it.
Yep.
But he also chose not to prosecute the foster mother, who was still alive at the time. And there is no way this woman did not know what was happening.
Right.
Exactly. And my biggest, who investigated it, do you know that part of it? Like
I'm still working through it, baby. That's a lot of information.
I know. In 2003, when we went in there, I have Mike Klazer's, well, it's falsified paperwork, I believe. He gave me some notes of his, but he literally gave me notes of his notes. So I have 10 pages of Mike Klazer's notes on our case that he took of his notes. Seriously, you can tell it was somebody jotting it down, but I forgot where I was at. In 2003, when we went in there, see, you guys, I can't get it together.
Okay.
I really am
think
not
I
awake.
remember.
I wasn't expecting to be here. I apologize, or I would have maybe brushed my hair.
It's okay. I'll try. Because I did dig into this part of it, and from what I remember, you said that you had gone in to see if you could see the autopsy report with Mike Klaser.
Okay. Yes.
Then he had told you.
He gave us, it was a random thing because my dad died in 1968 and we don't know much about him. We met somebody that met my dad out of the blue. He said, your dad never believed your sister killed your brother. And my sister and I just looked at each other. We knew that. Of course we knew that. My sister was a sweet, adorable little girl that was very bonded with my brother. They were in a foster home together. Come on, So we immediately called Mike Klaser, just because he was the new medical examiner, then he was friendly with us. He sent us the autopsy. Well, in the autopsy, it said there's a series of pictures. So we immediately called and said there's supposed to be some pictures. And he was thumbing through this file, and I've seen it. It's an old file. It's not even in a file. And he's going, pictures. Oh, well, holy shit. Casey, did you see the pictures? You saw the pictures, Allie. Did you see the pictures, Casey?
I've seen them.
I haven't steeled myself enough to look at the pictures yet.
Well, you'll immediately notice, holy shit.
Right.
He's got a bite mark on his penis. His anus is so horribly bruised. His bottom is just, I don't even know, hand marks. The tops of his feet, the specialist actually determined it's either burns or bound. He was bound. I mean, he's got the impressions of open safety pins embedded into his thighs. But he was brought in wearing underpants and slip-on shoes. But immediately when you see the pictures, you're like, oh my God. Like nobody would have ever believed this happened by another child. So that moment, it was on. And Mike Klaser seemed to be helpful at first. It wasn't his case. It was from years ago, although he was there a little later. But he actually, though there's one print on my brother's stomach that he actually thought was an adult's penis print. He thought that's what the bruise was. That's what Klaser was saying. And I think it was Mark Ott that, he's the one. Basically what happened, Mike Klaser immediately got a hold of Jerry Poggle. Jerry Poggle got a hold of Mark Ott, who was a Chilton police officer. Then he went to Ken Kratz. And that day, according to Klaser's notes, who knows if it's even real, but it makes sense that he would go down that line. And then the reason that I find out, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know anything about Mark Ott, but I knew he was disgusting. The first day we met him, he was chewing gum and kicked back on his chair. And you guys probably don't know a lot about Mark Ott, but I'm telling you, I say it every day, he's the key that needs to be shaken out. He's the one nobody's looking at. He was Jerry Poggle's undersheriff in 2003. Andy was a cop, but now he went on to be sheriff. He's the one who gave away the bones. Mark Ott. You don't read about him, you won't find him. That's why I know he's in it. And he's a creepy motherfucker. I'm telling you. So anyway, he does this, he starts this investigation, and he's chewing gum, kicked back on his chair, and says, yep, I've seen kids bruised from forehead to asshole before. That was the first thing the man said to us. And of course, we're sitting there like, oh boy. Anyway, it was just a series of them saying they were going to do something. Literally, it was opened up in 2003. It was, well, they claim they lied. It was closed in 2005, but the death certificate was changed in 2006. So what were they doing from 2003 to 2006? Well, I know what they were doing. You know what they were doing. But I mean, it was, we wanted Mark Ott to interview the foster mom, and he kept saying, we can't find her. She doesn't answer. She's not home. We literally staked her out. Called Mark Ott. She's home now. You know, you can go see her now. He didn't like us because we were telling him to do his job. But we basically walked in and said, here's what, you know, we think the foster father did it. And I think he went, cool. And that's all he looked into. And he went out of his way to cover for the foster mom. I don't know why. There's still a part of me that doesn't even know if it was them, because how'd they get away with this? How'd they walk in with the dead child and nobody questioned him? But I don't know. The rest, you know. Casey, should I go into all this detail here?
If you want to, you can, because you're not going to break it down the way that I will. You'll break it down as a family member.
Right.
When I take a case file, I break it down on the legalities and how the investigation should have been handled and where the police fucked up. And it's insane. And Sapper Cop says, why would they care enough about a case from 1967 to hide it? That is the $36 million question there, Sapper. Why would they care enough about a 1967 murder of a 2-year-old boy in foster care to cover it up?
I know. Because this is not a new problem that started happening in 2005. It goes back probably for freaking ever. And then the next person to come in that gets the torch passed to them covers up the old people's shit. And that's what Ott did with Poggle. They're covering up all the people ahead of them because they're still protecting those secrets.
What you got to understand is Jerry Poggle's freaking grandpa was a sheriff. His dad was a sheriff, right? Mark Ott in 1967, his dad was working for the sheriff department. His great uncle, his great aunt, his aunt and his uncle were working for Calumet County Sheriff. Okay? Yeah. Mark Ott's uncle and aunt ran for sheriff for 20 years straight. And when he couldn't, when his term was up, she'd run and she'd win. So if Mark Ott comes out and says this happened and we didn't do anything about it, it's going to implicate his family and Jerry Poggle's family. Right. Exactly what happened. But there's more, I believe, too. I mean, Mark Ott's that kind of guy. He's in the Brotherhood. He's going to keep his boys safe. Have you ever seen him standing next to Wiegert? I mean, he's like the daddy. It's creepy. So they knew they didn't do shit with the case in 67, I believe. I don't know why that was, but they certainly weren't going to, implicate themselves. It's the whole building. I have every foster care record. I have every record of my family. My brother was in there for 72 days. And the day that it happened, all the police wanted were my parents' records. I personally think they were going to try to pin it on my parents. And when they realized he was in foster care for that long, they couldn't. So they said, well, it was your daughter then.
Right. And I wonder why. I feel like the foster father was being protected for some reason. Like, why? It's so clear that this was not an accidental death of another child. The wounds on him were not inflicted from a child, not from playing, certainly. And there's just no way. And it had to be very clear then. So I feel like there has to be something that connects that foster father with someone in power that wanted to protect them for whatever reason, or like you said to me before, that your family was just disposable, like Brendan, like
Yeah.
Stephen, you know, because they had been in some trouble before. And it's just like, we don't care. We're not going to do anything for you. You know, they're all just throwaways. And that is just, for whatever their reason was, I feel like they protected this man and never did go after him.
The
And
only connection I
Now,
can
just
make with
really
them.
quickly, I'd
Oh,
like to
sorry.
break in. Ziggy is asking me if I have a link to this case. At the moment, Ziggy, I do not. As I've mentioned before, I'm a single mom. I'm on a limited income. And, in order to put the case file as I have it online for everybody else to tear through, I need to be able to purchase a hosting site for that. And, I'm a broke bitch. So when you contribute to my Patreon, that's what you're contributing to. You are allowing me to pay for the websites for these case files that people send to me, so that when I make videos on them, I'm able to give you direct links to those documents. And, no, the case file has not been unsealed. Courtney is currently trying to get it unsealed. And, we do need to back her up. We do need to help her with this. And it needs to be published out for all the world to see. Wisconsin has been able to get away with this for so long because they've been hiding in the shadows. And I don't like shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's the truth there. In the little bit of research, I shouldn't say a little bit, I did a little research on the foster care system back then. And the connection that I can make is that it was more of a church thing kind of when it started. There were kids that needed homes, and there were kids running around that weren't being supervised. So they started this foster program, right? It was very new in Calumet County in our area in '67. And the lady running it, she was running it. She was in the paper. I mean, a few days after this happened, they had it was called a leaders conference, and the welfare director was there, and I think the chief of police was there. They all knew each other. It's Chilton, Wisconsin. That's where Calumet County Building is, but it's in Chilton. It's a very small town, but there's a lot of churches. And I'm not blaming the whole church, but that's the connection that we always see. Every one of these people are members of these churches in the area. Another thing that I don't know, Casey, I think I may have told you this, that we have a story in our family that my real dad, whose name was also Walter Skinner, he was a boxer and he was a drinker. He died when he was 26. He was a dumb kid. But in 1964, I believe it was, he got into a fight. The newspapers, as many articles as there were on my brother in the paper, there were about this fight. And my dad got in a bar brawl, they called it, a brawl. And the story goes that they told him to leave the dance bar, and he wouldn't, so he punched a cop, and a brawl started. Well, I found the story in the paper, and whose fucking great uncle beat him? Well, the newspaper just said it took two cops to get him into handcuffs, but Mark Ott's great uncle, who was the sheriff at the time, delivered him to Calumet Memorial Hospital unconscious. So was he unconscious before the handcuffs, and from that day on, he had epilepsy. I got those records from Winnebago County, and it's crazy because Calumet County doesn't have a record. They don't even have a record of my dad ever being in their jail. But the hospital has this record from the night they delivered him from the jail, and the newspapers have the whole article on what happened that night. But do you think that Mark Ott ever told me that it was his great uncle that, I believe there was a connection with my dad, because I also have letters from Calumet County and from the county saying, okay, when are you going to pay for your kids? He had kids in foster care, and he was being an asshole, and they wanted their money. They wanted him to man up, I don't know. I feel like they walked in with Walter Skinner's kid, and they didn't give a shit about Walter Skinner's kid. And they were going to try to pin it on him because it would have been easier that way. And when they realized they couldn't, they said my sister did it. And it was the coroner literally pointed at my sister and said she did it. I mean, it pretty much broke my parents because how horrible a thing to say. They just lost a kid, and now you're going to say it's this little girl. You know, it was pretty horrible for them. And they went to the newspaper, and the newspaper, Don Camphor was his name. He said he went and got these other pictures that were taken at the funeral home because there was more bruising showing up apparently. So this guy got the pictures, and when my mom talked to him, she was trying to get answers, and he told her that, what did he say? He said he knows what side his bread is buttered on. And if he pursued this case, he wouldn't get any more newspaper cases. And he was told by the coroner he better not question the coroner. So, I can't put it all together what in their heads made them decide. No inquest, a kid did this. They knew damn well a kid didn't do it. The foster father, I don't know. I'm worried about the kids his own kids that were there. They all had, I guess they're saying it was muscular dystrophy. They all did die before 40 or really close, but there's no way this guy did this to only my brother. I even suspect that he did it to my sister, but she won't have any memories of it. It's been she remembers my brother. My family remembers him well, but I can't believe he didn't do it to his own children because they weren't able to speak up. They were disabled. And of course the foster mother knew. And Casey, I know hopefully you read the investigation, and Mark Ott goes to interview her. And she's, at first she talks to him, and then he goes back a couple months later and she says, yeah, my memory is even worse than when you were here before. So Mark Ott's real happy with what she's saying because she's saying, I did see him hit Chrissy, but a couple times when he was mad, and then Mark writes right in the investigation, we'll revisit this, but he never does. But then when he goes back to finish the investigation, he literally he says to her, so you weren't there. No, I wasn't there. And he's kind of guiding her on what to say to make sure she's not implicated. It's maddening. I can't even, Christ, when I got that, I could have ripped it up right there. I could not believe it because in my eyes, she said she saw him hit him. She should have been arrested right there because it's mandated reporting. When I went to Ken Kratz and said, Mark Ott had finally gotten some work records of this foster mom because we were sure that she was home. Who wouldn't know this? I mean, you guys know. You wouldn't know if your child was bruised up in that way. Of course you would. So she's saying she didn't know, but she's saying she was at work. She thinks she was at work. She's not sure. So he got her records, and they're really washed out. And they're on the line that the day my brother died, it says ill, death in the family on 10/20. But Kratz is trying to tell me that this, and it says that she was at work. I said, where does it say she's at work? It says ill, death in the family on 10/20. It doesn't say she was at work on 10/20 or she left work on 10/20. If anything, it looks like she wasn't at work. It looks like it says, there was a death in the family on 10/20. She wasn't here, and she's not going to be here the next day. When I went to fucking Ken Kratz and said to him, this doesn't say she was at work. He was like, well, we did the investigation, and this is my decision. And I said to him, so you're going to tell me that there were no laws back then that I can have a foster kid and I can let my husband rape him, and I have no duty to report that. And he turned to a book on his shelf. Ugh, I can't imagine. I hate even thinking of him. And he went to pull out a book, and he said that law wasn't in order back then. And I just looked at him and just nodded. went home. Sure enough, of course it was in place. It's mandated reporter. And whether or not the foster mom had to report, the coroner had to report, the cops had to report, the welfare director, what's going on here? They're all mandated. Of course they are. They have a kid in their care to care for. So why did they cover this? Is it just because of the funding? Did they not want to look bad? I mean, I know they all know each other, but it doesn't make sense. And it sure doesn't make sense that they continued to cover it up, which, I mean, geez, what would have been the deal to say, hey, we made a big mistake and we are so sorry we've made changes, but they weren't giving us that. And they still, I'll tell you what, that to this day, they have never contacted my mother and told her that they changed that death certificate. And when I talked to Mike Glazer about it in November, I asked him, I mean, I'm condescending because he's an idiot. And I said, Mike, just tell me why nobody's called her. You know what he said to me? He goes, oh, fuck off. And like I said, I'm condescending. And I said, oh, Mikey. And he hung up on me. And then he called me 10 minutes later and he said, you can come and get my entire file tomorrow. I hope this brings closure to your family. Well, the bastard put in the file, like, my police records on my parents. My dad, I've never even seen this one. It's my dad. My dad died in Chicago. They called down to the Appleton Police Department because he had a ticket in his pocket, a parking ticket or something. But Calumet County has this record. Mike Glazer gave me this record in 2018. I said, Mike, where did you get this? He goes, I don't know. That's what he put in my file to give my family closure. Just like, it's unbelievable. I guess too, because I don't think anyone down there wants a strong woman to walk in and look for answers. They didn't like us,
Can you let someone's asking, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm done. Let you guys go. I'm sorry. I went off there.
Oh, you're fine.
This needed to happen, Courtney. We needed to get you on here. You are so passionate about this case, obviously. You're so passionate in your support for Brendan. And, it's just...
And Stephen. I just don't say Stephen because I'm so passionate about Brendan, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I always want to say that.
No. It's just that, as passionate as Allie and I are about all the cases that we come across, we can never be as passionate and come across as passionate as the family members of those that reach out to us.
Of course, yeah.
Because you are directly affected.
Mm-hmm. Someone was asking in the chat what the names of the foster parents were. I can't remember.
Martin and Mercedes Maxwell.
Maxwell?
She just died. Well, she might have obviously.
Is that a tongue-in-cheek joke?
I don't even like putting that out there,
Stuff for their canteen. And also, really quick, I'd like to remind everybody about the rally on June 15th. That's part of why we're all here, is to make sure we get a lot of people, as many as possible, come out to the rally. Let's get loud. Let's get crazy and just tell everybody we're not going to stand for this shit. What's happening to Courtney and her family, what's happening to Brendan and Steven, nobody else there. All this corrupt shit has got to stop. We're not going to have it anymore. So yeah, that's what this.
And we need you, you guys. We need you here. I'm telling you, people are scared, and I'm doing it. I go there, nothing's happened to me, and it is scary because I know this whole case. I know what they're capable of, but the people, what I'll tell you, I think what Brendan, Steven, and Zellner need is for us to get up and show up, because she can't do it herself either. She needs to see the people that we're not going to stop. And I'd be happy if if we could, walk them out the door that day would be my dream. Enough people, they really need to leave the office.
Yes.
And that's one reason why I am wanting so badly to come to the rally, is because I know people have been asking me to go for years, and I just, not only am I incapable, but I flat out refused for years because I am worried for my own safety. But, if we can manage to help me get the airfare to go, I'm happy to go. I will make whatever sacrifice needs to be made to bring attention to not only Brendan Dassey and Stephen Avery and Walter Skinner, but to everyone who has been let down by the justice system that is put into place to serve us.
You got to be here, Casey. So I couldn't even figure out how to get on this call here, but if someone could show me how to do a GoFundMe, I got it. You have to be here. You're the reason that I said to the chief of police today, you work for me. So you need to be here. And I felt damn confident saying it to him. And I'll tell you what, he wanted to talk to me all fucking day today.
Well, he can take it up with me when I get there.
Right. Talk to my
He gave me the number of the Attorney General. He wanted me to call him today. Seriously. Well, why don't you just talk about Scott Taddick then?
Oh, Scott, boy, I could talk about that creepy motherfucker. I'm sorry, but if I've ever seen, he fits every profile of a molester I have ever seen in my life. And the mere fact that, like, he made such a big deal about, Stephen was molesting Brendan, right? And it's like, fucking when? When he was in prison? Because that's about the only time that could have happened, you jackass. The fact that he put that out there tells me, guilty screams the loudest. He himself has done some very bad things. And all you got to do is look through his testimony and see. He flat out fucking admits to all the crappy shit he's done because he accuses other people of doing it.
Well, and I think he's a sick sociopath, psychopath, and he would hate someone like Stephen. He would hate someone like Brendan because they seem like they're kind people, they're honest people, right? Not Scott, but I don't. To me, Scott's no different than the authorities that are lying about everything. He could be one of them. He's such a creeper.
I have nothing but bad to say about Scotty Boy. And, for the new people that haven't seen my channel or my videos, if you go into my channel and you type in the search bar, Scott, you will find a ton of videos where I break down all 4 of Scott Taddick's statements and how they do not connect to each other at all. And that in and of itself tells you that he is hiding something big.
I think he is. I actually think we should come for the rally and then just move it right over to his place and take him into custody. I'm sorry that he's the one I got my eye on for sure.
What? Okay, so Jason M asks me what I think happened, as in who killed Teresa Halbach. That is a bit of a loaded question there, Jason, because, for years I've had Ryan Hilligoss's ass nailed to the wall for this because, I'm sorry, but just so much links up. And the fact is that Ryan had the means, the motive, and the opportunity. And I mean, the motive right there, it's very simple. His best friend was her roommate. She was shagging him, and he's a jealous fucking psychotic boyfriend. So, you've got that part of things. But now with all of this new information coming out from Zellner, I'm having a bit of a question. But at the same time, people need to understand Zellner is not required to prove who did it. She is required to prove her client didn't. Ergo, any information that she comes out with, that doesn't mean it's fact. What she's coming out with is stuff that could have happened, casting reasonable doubt. Ergo, I still believe that it was Ryan Hilligoss. And personally, I think she went home. I think Ryan confronted her with his fucking jealousness and beat the shit out of her. I think Scott Blodern didn't actually kill her. I don't think he took part in the murder, but I do believe that he took part in the covering up.
Yeah, I know. Did you say that you had Ryan nailed, but you kind of changed your mind? Is that what you said?
I haven't really changed my mind because I haven't seen any hardcore evidence that proves that he didn't. I have yet to see anything from Zellner anywhere else in the case file that he had nothing to do with it or that there's no way that he did it. What I'm saying is that it's kind of got me a little bit on the fence, but at the same time, you know, again, means, motive, and opportunity. I can't link Scott and Bobby up to Teresa. I can link Scott Blodern and Ryan Hilligoss up to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is. Kimberly here is asking me to talk about the day planner. The fact that Ryan even had her day planner. Look, guys, I've worked outside sales. I don't go anywhere without my laptop, my day planner, my cell phone, all my equipment. So the fact that he had her planner, that's the hitch in the giddy up. We can't link Scott Taddock and Bobby Dassey directly to Teresa with that day planner in Ryan Hilligoss's possession. We just can't. Because how the fuck did he get it?
Right. And also on top of that, he had information he couldn't have had at the time he had it, which was an hour after she's reported missing. You know, you could only have gotten that information by talking to Teresa. There's just no other way. I've tried to find a way, and there is no other way he could have gotten that information because no one had that information an hour after she's reported missing that she saw Stephen Avery that day and not Yonda. So him having that information just...
How do you explain him erasing her phone messages? How do you explain him even getting into her phone messages?
I think he already had her password. I think he was keeping tabs on her and where she was, and he was already checking her phone to keep the tabs on her. And he is the one that was calling her and harassing her. And so I think when something happened, you know, one of the messages that he might have left, maybe whether it was a text or a call or whatever it was, might have been, if you don't answer my call, I'm coming over. You know, like I'm coming over to your house. And maybe he did, and maybe something happened then. And then, you know, the next day, the morning of the second, he's like, oh shit, I better get rid of that. And so there's the deleting going on that you see, that we never got to get the answer in court. Who was that? I feel like they know, but they couldn't say because it wasn't allowed. So, yeah, I do believe that the attorneys know the answer to that, but that's not something that they could present in court at that time. But Zellner can.
Yeah. Well, and Roll Griffin says Ryan could have got the day planner while assisting law enforcement in the cover-up while Bobby Dassey was the killer. Yes, he could. Now, ask yourself, is it likely? What we're looking at here, and when you introduce that kind of a thought process, you're straying very close to conspiracy theory territory. You cannot pull off this kind of a cover-up with that many moving parts. It's just not going to happen. So to have that many moving parts and have Ryan Hilligoss assisting Ellie with the cover-up, but Bobby Dassey was the killer, but all the people who assisted Ellie with the cover-up know who the killer is. They have to know, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's too many moving parts. We have to pare it down and simplify. That we're looking at action movie kind of storyline here, and life is not a movie. We have to look at the human element. And by that, I mean, we have to look at how humans operate. It's just not possible. Let's see. Vanessa Overton says, Casey, oh, you left me. Casey, can you clarify who was definitely going to be paying out for the lawsuit? Was it Peg, Lautenschlager, the state, and Peterson? Can you confirm this for us? When you say the lawsuit, I'm assuming that you're talking about the $36 million lawsuit. And that would have been, everybody was on the hook for that. You know, so everybody had a stake. At the way that the language in the original lawsuit was written, certain people were targeted specifically, but then the remainder of that would have had to be made up by the state of Wisconsin itself, which would have thrown it into bankruptcy. They had a very big investment in covering this up.
Yep. And then the people that were named, that would include at some point the there was talk of Lincoln Colburn being added to this once they were deposed and they learned just how much of a role they had in concealing all of this. They were be talking about adding them to the lawsuit, and Colburn even admitted on the stand that he was afraid of that happening. So I think a lot more people than just those that are named had something to lose. Why would Lincoln Colburn do it? Because they knew they were probably going to be named. I think that's enough motivation right there to get them to plant that shit that they planted, because they were there for every single freaking thing that was found. So, yeah. Do I doubt that they had anything? No. I had no doubt that they were the guys that would plant the evidence.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Jamie Hart says it is either one group or another. No way they all helped each other in sync. That's exactly it. You can't have that many moving parts. Mm-hmm. Sapper Cop says, but then how does Teresa get to the quarry? Why would Ryan choose the quarry? Clearly, you've never had a stalker, and for that, you should be grateful. However, being a female, I have had a stalker, and Ryan Hilligoss fits the profile of a stalker. I personally feel that he stalked her. He knew where she was going. It was a place close to Stephen Avery's house, but not on the Avery property, which would, make it very easy for Ryan to take her there, and would also make sense because he needs a place where Avery presumably could have committed the murder. However, I do not believe that Ryan is the one who took her to the quarry. That was law enforcement.
Interesting. Have I missed anything? Oh, who does Casey and Christina? Who does Casey and Courtney think? What? Okay, it says who does Casey and Courtney think happened to her brother and why?
I think the foster father killed him in the act of molesting him and covered it up, or law enforcement helped him cover it up.
I think it is something like that, whether it was being where he is being molested or he was being abused, one way or the other. But something that she told me was that her sister recalls playing with him when he's behind the couch and he's laying on the floor and he's naked, and he tells her to get away. Like, I remember that, and she goes up and plays with him, and this is that clip after something happened to him, and he's probably still in that defensive mode, not even realizing it's his sister trying to play with him, and he's just like, leave me alone, because he's still protecting himself. But if he's
I think he wanted to get him dressed. He had to get him dressed. He didn't call an ambulance. He took him to the hospital.
Right.
Which is strange, the whole thing. I think it's related to who was working at the time and that they were covering to not implicate their relatives or whoever. I'm not clear. I wanted to say about you were talking about Lincoln Colburn. I personally don't think they would have given him that job to hide anything. I am telling you, look into Mark Ott. I'm serious. You can't even find him on the Castle files. He's the undersheriff. Why not? And he's the sheriff. These guys have a lot of power. I mean, there's no way he wasn't there. He wasn't around all of that. He's just he's a shady guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vanessa Overton asked a relevant question. She says, but how would Ryan put her into burn barrels, plant blood, etc.? I don't think that Ryan could have done all of those things himself. Law enforcement was obviously in on it. And as I've said for years, my personal theory is that Ryan killed her, tried to dispose of her body. Somehow law enforcement caught wind of it. They got a hold of him and said, hey, we know what you fucking did, so now you're going to fucking help us nail Avery to the wall. Because once they figured out where she had been that day, ding! It was a happy fucking coincidence for law enforcement. I do not believe that law enforcement killed her.
Right.
That's stretching it fucking thinner than spandex on a fat woman's ass.
But that
you
goes-
have to look at the practicality. Ryan killed her. Scott Bloder assisted in attempting to help him hide the body or dispose of the body, but the ultimate disposal of the remains and planting of evidence occurred by law enforcement themselves. It just so happened that I personally think they were waiting around for some shit to go down to nail Stephen Avery on. And this is what happened. You want to clear that up, Jason? I hope you heard that, because it says you think law enforcement took her to the quarry for Ryan and Ellie to kill her. No, I don't think law enforcement had anything to do with killing her. He just picked up the fucking torch and ran with it after the deed was already done.
Got a couple questions about Cuss Road. Thoughts on Cuss Road being part of the cover-up, and is there any documentation about the incident on Cuss Road? I've
seen.
Yeah, all I know is that in Farak's book, right there, Wrecking Crew, this is the most interesting thing I've ever heard. There's, you know how he does with all of Casso. He's basically using Casso to tell the story. In his book, he's linking, he's referencing that, he's quoting. But the most interesting thing that I found in that book was related to Cuss Road and all the Bushman stuff, how he was able to pick all the pieces from all over Casso and all the other random places and put them together into a story. That story that he tells in there that I can't even possibly really interpret was so interesting that I do believe there's something there. I do believe that somebody intentionally had him, he's the cleanup guy, go and clean that up and make things appear where they needed to appear, disappear where they needed to not be anymore. I do think there was probably a crime scene at Cuss Road. I think that there might have been bones there that were moved from the Cuss Road area or the deer camp and planted on the Avery property at some point. Was the night of the 7th or something, whenever it was. But I do think that that's where a lot of the evidence probably was, the temporary burial site. The dogs want to go there, they can't go there. So something, I think, happened there for sure. I just can't.
Oh, absolutely. Now, really quick, Roll Griffin says, likely scenario, but we can't be sure, and it doesn't explain all the Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick line. No, that doesn't, but this does.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then I got one.
With me on this. So Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick lying actually is explained very easily, because Stephen Avery was due to receive a $36 million payout, so they thought. Now, those of us that are actually in the legal world know that the fucking actual damages probably would not have been nearly that much. Juries are known to do funky shit with punitive damages and actual damages. So it could have been lower, it could have been higher, who knows? But either way around it, 36 million was the magic fucking number. So Wisconsin law enforcement needed to nail Stephen Avery to the wall to make the lawsuit go away. Scott Taddick lying is explained by this. Scott Taddick spends more fucking energy figuring out how to get other people to do his job than if he would just fucking do it himself. He's a lot like my first husband that way. So obviously, he must have thought to himself, hey, if Stephen Avery's in jail, we'll get a bigger piece of that pie. Maybe he was afraid that Stephen Avery wouldn't share the money with Barb if she was with Scott, or he wouldn't have access to the money that Stephen Avery shared with Barb, whatever. But it's all tied back to the money. As for Bobby Dassey, if you notice the timing of when he actually implicates Stephen Avery, you'll notice that they were fishing for anybody. You will also notice that suddenly Barb Janda and Scott Taddick suddenly have new cars that, I'm sorry, but nobody who works for the kind of companies they work for in the grunt positions they work in could possibly afford. The house they live in could not possibly be afforded on their salaries alone. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen. Do the math. The money is why Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick, and who knows, maybe there was even some criminal records or some other shit that got expunged. There are 1,000,001 fucking reasons why Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick lied beyond them being the actual murderers. There are so many reasons, it boggles the fucking mind. What you have to look at is what is the most likely scenario. Look at these two gentlemen and ask yourself, what motivates these two? With Scott Taddick, it's money. That's the only thing he's interested in. And let's see. No Drama Diva says, what do you think of any of Hostetler connections? I don't think a goddamn thing. I'm doing good keeping my mind on the wrongful conviction cases that I'm covering. I haven't delved into the Hofstetler case, not because I don't think that it matters, but because there are people better equipped to dissect that case than me that are on it. So I got nothing. I'm dry. Leave your delicate sensibilities at the fucking door, because I don't censor anything. Taryn, I don't know that Ryan Hilligoss and Bobby Dassey are not connected in any way, from what I've been able to glean. But then again, bubble.
Right. I like that. I like that a lot. If I could find a way to link Ryan and Bobby together, I would be so happy. But I haven't found a way yet.
Right. Raul, I am aware of the shady shit on Bobby Dassey's computer. In fact, I did a few videos about it. And that very easily could have been the motive for the lying and whatnot.
Okay, so Holly says, so one of my theories is Scott and Bobby were basically told to get your stories straight or you'll be suspects. What do you think? I agree. I agree so much with that. Because they
with that or with the porn.
Yeah. Even without that, like knowing that Steven has, like, there's a car found, we better get some stories straight before we get looked at. The police are telling Bobby that Steven's going to point at you. He's already saying that you're the last one to see her. I don't doubt that they got together and were like, shit, I don't have an alibi. I'll alibi you. You alibi me. We're good. Never thought anybody would question it. And of course they didn't.
No, of course not. Sapper Cop says it also doesn't explain the Hallbach family's reactions. Here's the issue with that. Let's not look too deeply into their facial expressions, their lack of show of emotion. Everybody processes grief or worry differently. Emotional evidence has actually been proven to be faulty and has officially been rendered inadmissible in a court of law. So you don't want to go based off of that. I like to hold all possibilities of evidence to the standard of the burden of proof that would be used in a court of law. It hasn't steered me wrong yet. So let's leave the Hallbox out of this.
I agree. Holly said if the cops will plant evidence, why wouldn't they plant fake porn, right? I mean, I don't think that they did, because there's not only just the porn, there's the horrible things that he said to those girls.
And then you have to look at the fact that Zellner's expert would have found evidence of planting.
Yeah. Because they can tell that shit now. Maybe back then.
Here's the thing. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I also minor in digital forensic technology because I'm an idiot. Let's just pile more shit on.
That sounds awesome, actually.
Even when you erase something from your trash can on your computer, it's still bouncing around your hard drive for a long time. That's what a digital forensic analyst does, is they look for those signatures, and they would have found the timestamp associated with those images, with those searches, with that online activity that would have implicated law enforcement planting it. Since none of that was found, and we know it wasn't found because it wasn't commented on in any of Zellner's briefs, we have to go with the logical conclusion that it was, in fact, genuinely Bobby.
Yeah. And on top of that, the things that he said to the girls, I mean, it just kind of ties along, and with something is not right in his head. He's a little bit off there. If he's talking, and that might explain why he doesn't have any, he didn't have any girlfriends. There's no other girlfriends that we hear of, because he probably said things like that to them, you know, like about talking about playing the guy from Saw. You know, that's creepy as shit. That would scare off any girl. You know, and the show me your boobies on webcam kind of stuff. Like, no, that's a big no from me.
Apricot, the fact is that when a woman goes missing, it's almost inevitable that she's not going to be found alive, especially after the first 48 hours. It's very possible that they knew that. I mean, we can sit here and speculate all day, but that's really not moving us forward. Oh no, honey, if a loved one of mine was missing, if one of my daughters went missing, that motherfucker better hope that the cops find him before I do. Trust. But, you know, again, we cannot rely on emotional presentation evidence. We just can't. It's been proven to be faulty, and so we have to go with what we can prove.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of people have said this before, you know, thinking outside the box and the what ifs and stuff, and those are really good if it's like your jumping off point. Like, you can go and explore that avenue and see if you can find any evidence to back it up, but until there is, it really can't be considered in what do you think happened theories, because there is nothing to support it yet. That doesn't mean that it isn't there. It's just that it hasn't been found yet, if it exists. So it shouldn't be considered as a plausible theory, a probable theory, or whatever, a valid theory. You'd never hear that in court, that's for sure. And that's kind of what we need to think about here. You'll never hear it from Zellner without some evidence to back it up.
Now, Raul Griffin says, if the cops find your missing daughter, wouldn't you want them to open that car immediately to look for clues on her whereabouts? I am not arrogant enough to tell the cops their job. I would expect them to follow all valid protocols, and being as I am a person who actually knows how that works, I would want them to follow all valid and sustainable protocols that they've used for years and have used successfully. And I'm not going to stand there and demand that they do certain things because I don't know what they're looking for. Vanessa, anything that Zellner doesn't say, I can almost guarantee is part of her psychological warfare battle plan. There's a lot of stuff that she also can't say, that she can't release to the general public because it would render that evidence null and void and would render it thusly not new evidence. So she does have to play with her cards very close to her chest.
You guys, can I get off?
Yes, you may. You like?
I mean, I feel like I'm just sitting here. I don't want to be on camera. I'm feeling pretty weird.
No worries.
Joe Dirt picture, but I want to get on the chat too. So I'm gonna get off here and get on chat. Is that cool?
Yeah. Just click the hang up button. And thanks for coming on. Thank you so much.
Love you, Courtney. I'll call you this weekend sometime, honey.
Thank you. You guys take care. I'll be watching still.
Okay. Bye.
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 Okay, so I don't know how much longer we have Casey, so keep asking Casey questions while she's still here.
You don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive.
Yeah. I don't want you to leave us now.
I'm sorry, but you know, no. I like the sleep.
Sleep is lame. Every time I think of a legit theory, it gets shut down. I still don't think Scott and Bobby did it. I just think it's too convenient. I don't think it was anyone related. I don't either, Holly. I really do believe it's Ryan. There's just things about Ryan that I can't let go of, even though Bobby looks really good and it's so convenient. He's right there. Hey, Denise.
Hi.
But I can't let go of Ryan. Until those things can be explained, Ryan has still got to be number one. He has to be there. He's not just planting the damn car. He's involved in her disappearance.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Let's see. Julie Gerard says, Casey, do you think KZ is calling Bobby's bluff by saying he did it so that he will shit himself and say he lied on the stand? Bobby getting the blood from the sink is bullshit. I don't think that it's bullshit. I think she's trying to demonstrate that it's a possibility. At this point, she's trying to establish the reasonable doubt that Buting and Strang should have established at the original trial. You know, and I know a lot of people love to talk shit on Buting and Strang, and they like to say, oh, well, they didn't call this expert, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do that. They were paid X amount of dollars. First of all, no, they weren't. Second of all, you have no idea how much a defense like that costs. It is astronomical. These experts will, 9 times out of 10, at least the good ones, the ones that are worth a piss, will only testify if they are paid. And it's extremely expensive and a raging pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have a Denise. Hi, Denise.
The Denise Rainey.
How are you?
I'm alive, I think.
Right on, sister.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Good news.
Linda. Linda needs the link. All right, I'll give it to you, Linda.
I just sent it to her in Discord.
Okay, you got the
You don't have to be
the
just
flipping link. Linda, you Looney Tune, get on here, girl.
now.
Time to wake up, Casey. Here it comes. It's about to get fucking lit up in here.
Motherfucker.
If you can't, like, I don't know. You can't sleep through Linda. Everybody's about to get woke up right now.
All right. Fucking bring it on, Biznitch.
Business. You're the boss, man. I'm telling you, if you get to St. Louis, we could totally road trip together. Oh, I would have so much fun with you. Oh my gosh. And then we'll stop in Chicago and pick up Allie. It'll be good times.
Right on. There's Linda.
There's
Oh
Linda.
my God. I get to finally talk to Casey. What the fuck is up, folks?
Right.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. How you doing, darling?
I fucking love you. I just
I love you too.
you have folks.
When we called Casey that you were gonna come on, I'm like, oh my God. I was telling my husband, he's like, and the first thing he said was, oh folks, that'll be good. Like even he knows, like, so we're all like waiting on pins and needles.
Okay, well, she's old folks, and I'm oh my.
Well, and the funniest thing about this is I actually like I've got a couple of friends that I've met through my videos, and every time that like we start talking, you know, they'll message me on my fan page or something, and they'll start talking to me, and they're like, I'm so fangirling right now, and that's the guys that say it. I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Who the fuck am I? I'm a in their kitchen fucking talking shit.
Normally I'd be on, but I've suffered a migraine. No sorries for me, but I've suffered a migraine for the last 2 days, and I really look worse than I ever have, and I'm not going to show that.
Oh, Linda.
Aw, sweetheart. Well, you couldn't look any worse than me. I mean, you know, yeah.
Yes, Scott.
Nonsense.
The 6 kids have aged me badly.
Well, yeah.
Casey, how old are your kids?
I have an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Gotcha.
What a band.
I have built my own platoon.
Yes.
I have my own standing army.
Right.
Yep.
A good friend of mine has 5 kids, and I always tell him he's got his basketball team. So you've got 1 plus a sub, so you're doing all right. You've got a spare.
Yeah, I've certainly got the free throw line covered.
Right. That's so funny.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So while I have you, what are there any new updates with David Thorne, Casey? Or are you going to just make me wait till you make a video?
Oh, honey. So there currently is no significant legal maneuvering updates to be had. But that in and of itself is an update because about 2 years ago, I was approached by a production company asking me what I thought of the David Thorne case. And I really talked it up because David needs all the help he can get.
Right.
And, you know, they talked with me. They talked with various other people. And they decided ultimately to feature his case on a show. As part of this show, he was given legal representation, and then not only was the show never completed and never aired, but the legal representation has done exactly dick and has not produced any sort of results whatsoever. So the fact is that David keeps getting hope, and then his hopes are smashed.
Oh gosh.
And it's fucking getting old.
That's insane.
He's been in prison almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
On a life sentence with no possibility of parole for conspiracy, not even the murder itself.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
I am currently working on a documentary of the David Thorne case, since apparently
awesome.
these bougie ass motherfuckers can't handle a case that doesn't have a documentary attached to it. I'll fucking do it myself. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it.
Wow,
Awesome.
fantastic.
I think that's great. If we can help, you know how to get hold of us. You know where to find us, somewhere online. But yeah, I think that'd be
Somewhere in
fun.
ether,
Right.
Denise and Linda.
Right on. I mean, you need to do that. You are so passionate. I feel every word you say come right through me, and I'm like, she's speaking my words. She's saying what I want. She's saying what I need to hear, and I love it.
And
I
she's
love
saying it how I want to hear it. I love the inflection and the. You call it brash. I call it my spirit animal. Like that's how I am when I want to make a point.
It's totally how I am. I mean, I have absolutely fucking no filter in me at all. Okay. And if I think something, it comes out my mouth. My mother always said, do you ever think about what you're saying? I said, no. She goes, well, maybe you should. I don't know. But I just love your passion. It just comes through. And when I started watching your videos, I was like, oh my God, it's me. Although I don't have the knowledge you have, I certainly have the trucker mouth and the passion.
Well, and it cracks me up because so many people talk about my cussing, and I'm like, you're going to make a terrible lawyer. Lawyers don't cuss. I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Have you ever been in the back room of a fucking courthouse? Have you ever been in a DA's office? Yeah. It quite literally is, quit breaking the law, asshole. Yeah. I mean, if you honestly believe that people who have a Juris Doctorate don't cuss, that clearly means that you didn't graduate high school.
Oh, Taryn just asked a question. She said, I've asked a few times in MaM-2. It shows college pictures of Teresa. Looks just like Lacey Peterson, who was murdered in 2002. If it's not her, it's very weird. I know exactly who you're talking about. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't remember that girl's name. But that is definitely one of Teresa's friends. And it is just, some of those pictures look like Lacey Peterson for sure, but not all of the pictures of that particular girl look like Lacey Peterson. Right. But I know what you're talking about. It is creepy. There's Denise.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, look. She has appeared.
Oh.
See, now
you guys would die if I put my camera on. You'd go, what the hell? There's 100-year-old lady behind that.
Now you have to do it. You have to now.
Are you kidding me? It took me an hour to look like this, and I'm still not.
N64 controllers in chat. I just want to give a shout out to N64 controller for the the updated flyover video. I can't think of the word right now. The enhanced, that's the word.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I can't.
got the notification for it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Where's that posted?
I watched it. It was great.
On YouTube.
Yep.
I don't know if I have linked on what channel.
On his channel. Here, I'll post it now.
Or her channel.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's his or her. They don't come with he or she in the front of it.
Nope. Awesome. I just got the notification. Let's see. Oh shit. Awesome. If I could type, it'll help.
All right, while you're doing that, Roll Griffin says, shouldn't Buting and Strang have redirected some of their funds to experts instead of investigations who didn't discover enough? For instance, not a single Denny. First and foremost, Roll, it's not the investigator's job to discover the Denny motion. The Denny never should have been brought into play to begin with, and even if Strang and Buting knew about it before it was filed, they couldn't have known that Willis would actually fucking roll the fuck over and let Kratz rub his balls. The fact of the matter is, the Denny motion was completely inappropriate, and And it never should have been admitted. The Denny motion is put into play when there is so much forensic evidence, hardcore forensic evidence that proves that nobody other than the defendant could have committed this crime, that it would waste the court's time to introduce third-party liability. However, Kratz himself has admitted that he tried a purely circumstantial case.
Yes.
Ergo, Denny had no business being here. But even so, it is not the investigator's job to discover that Denny is coming into play.
Right.
It's not their job.
Right.
And hiring experts, you don't seem to understand that experts of the caliber that String and Buting would have needed to refute the state's case could not have been had for a cheap price.
Right.
I think
The
maybe
fact of the matter is that the list of the prosecution's experts was so laughable as to be ridiculous. And the fact of the matter is that they could not have known that the deck was as stacked against them as it is. It is easy to sit back and watch the trial or read the transcripts and go, duh, dumbass, why didn't you see that? But it's the same thing as watching a boxing match and saying, duck, move your hand in front of your face, you dumbass. It's easy to say that when you're the third person looking at the boxing match. You're not the one with blows raining down upon you. You're not the one in the middle of the melee. So, it's easy to criticize String and Buting until you're actually an attorney and trying a case.
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna
great.
get a box now. Don't anybody fucking trip on it on the way out.
Oh, hell no. I can't. Mine's just
I
tall.
mean, it's very easy. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback.
I think
It is.
I think I know what Rule was asking. I don't think he meant anything about the investigator should have known that the Denny motion was going to come into play. I think he meant was why didn't he find what I think he was asking was why couldn't the investigators find enough evidence so that they could have gotten past the Denny motion, past the Denny ruling, and introduced Bobby, for example, or Ryan.
Right. Well, they didn't investigate Ryan. That's probably why.
Right, because they didn't investigate them enough so that they could get past that Denny ruling, and that would be my biggest question. Like, why didn't they get there? They're attorneys. They should know that they can get past that if they have what the requirements are, if they meet the requirements, but they didn't try to get there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know that Buting said, well, we could only go so far because the police only went so far with it. But I don't believe that. I believe that, we're talking about court. I don't know this because I'm not a freaking lawyer, but if Ryan is looking good to you and you have something else pointing at Ryan, why don't you send your investigator to force him to talk to you? And if he won't talk to you, just call his ass up on stand and ask him the questions there under oath.
Yeah. I feel they should have asked him more questions. He in court he looks so shady. I mean, come on, he's grinning and he's got his behavior is very suspicious from get-go. Let alone that he was on the property and that he was head of the search party, and all these things that factor in, and they never even thought about checking into him at all. What is their issue? I mean, come on, it's so shady.
We know.
In chat a few minutes ago before I popped on here, me and Lisa made a trying to scroll back and find it. But she tossed out the idea that maybe since Bobby and Teresa left at the same time, maybe Teresa had car issues and Bobby stopped to help her, pick her up, and take her home. And then maybe something happened along that.
Yeah, she had car issues because her fucking tire.
Right. But I thought it was an interesting, I've never heard
Let's do Allie.
in all this time, I've never heard anybody put it in that, scenario. So I thought that was interesting. I told her it'd be an interesting thing to kind of try to hash out. And I was telling her how Allie is really interested in trying to figure out how we can connect Bobby and Ryan.
Something that I've thought of is that damn fix-it flat that's underneath the passenger side of her.
Well, that came from the arrow.
Yeah, like he's going bow hunting. Did he shoot out her tire? Is that what caused, her to have to pull over?
I still think it's an arrow. I don't know.
Truth Monster, really quick. Truth Monster says innocent men rot in jail and someone is worried about cussing. Yeah, actually, it's fucking amazing to me about this. They're so worried about my cursing, and I'm like, dude, I am cursing to make a point. I am cursing because I have to make law is an extremely dry subject. And I have to keep you entertained. I have to keep you engaged. This is why I cuss. This is why I smoke. This is why I crack jokes. I'm looking to entertain you because if I can entertain you, I can keep you interested. If I can keep you interested, I can relay information. If I can relay information, I can piss you off. And
there
if I
you
can
go.
piss you off,
Hey, Karen just posted in chat that she's in Australia. She says, "Where's my fucking cookie?"
It's in the mail, baby girl.
Let me tell you,
Pissed off people write letters. Pissed off people go to rallies. Pissed off people make phone calls. Pissed off people go to the voting booths.
Yep.
That is why I cuss.
There you go. And apparently this person never has seen me on here with because
was anybody around last weekend? Like, oh, good.
Yeah,
great.
or weekends before we pull these all night lives, and my mouth is far from being kindergarten worth. I'll tell you that.
Oh, Courtney, that would be awesome if you can get like the local, small town dirt. That would be pretty cool if you can find any sort of connection.
I would love that.
That would be amazing.
I unfortunately can't even see chat, so I have no idea what anybody's saying.
If Lisa, if you're still here, type in more about what we were chatting about before. If you're still here, because I do like your idea. Just trying to figure out how we can make that work.
Courtney, if you find anything, and there is like especially if you find a person that's willing to talk to me, I will make the trip up there anytime, any day. To talk to someone that can give me some more information on Ryan or Scott.
I have a making a murderer question. So do you know that there was an arrow found and put into evidence? Did you know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody can give me a link and send that to my email, I will
tell you. Hold on. I have my cancel. Hold on. I'll tell you. I have it marked. So
No. It's 3:00 in the morning where I am, baby girl. You got to send that shit to my fucking inbox so that I remember.
I'm just going to tell you what page it's on. Hold on.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's been my theory.
Don't let the door hit you on the ass, sweet pea.
That's funny. No, but yeah, there was an arrow found. I found it accidentally, and I was wondering if where is it?
That fits my theory,
It's on page 172. The arrow is on page 172, and we'll just put in there a tag number 8426.
That's the arrow right there. Look at that.
Yeah,
that is a serious arrow.
Bone. That will go through bone.
That is a serious arrow right there.
All about arrows like that.
Vanessa, when you said which location, it depends on where you look, because the coordinates that are in Casso and the coordinates that are in the ledger are two different places.
Yep.
So I think where did we finally decide it was, Allie? It wasn't off Jambo Creek, that was where the hell was it? It was in the quarry, wasn't it?
Yeah, here it's right here.
You have it?
Here's the
You still have I don't have the map handy.
The arrow in the ledger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we decided that the ledger coordinates are probably right. And that's another thing. Between Casso and the ledger, all the coordinates do not match from one set of documents to the next.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to find our map. Where's the map that Julie made? And I can't find it.
Yeah, where's the map? Where's the map? Getting all Dora the Explorer on. Yeah.
I'll find the map here in just a second and show you where it was. It was
yeah. And I just didn't know if you are aware of that, Casey, and what do you think about the possibility of her being shot with an arrow as opposed to a bullet?
As I've said before, she was not killed by a bullet.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not possible. It is not possible. If anybody with half a fucking brain were to Google search bullet wounds to a human skull, they would see inconsistency.
Yep.
I personally do not think that she was the wound in her head is not an arrow and it's not a bullet. Bone is very dense. It would have shown the tool marks from the arrow itself.
That's true.
If she was shot with an arrow, it was through the body. It was probably to disable her, but the head was caved in by blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
There's the location according to the ledger. This is the location. There's the conveyor road going into the Avery property right here. So it was right here where this arrow was found.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And I'm guessing it was never
way back when we were just in Hangouts before we went to Discord, we had a random conversation one night with JB, and I think Jamie was there. Was most of 8 or 10 of us were there, and somehow we got talking about arrows. And about a week later, I was paging through Castle looking for something else, and the word arrow jumped out at me, and I couldn't get hold of Allie fast enough. I'm like, son of a bitch, there was an arrow. Yeah. So it was so shocking because I looked at Castle 1,000 times, never noticed it until then. So yeah, ever since then, it's kind of been an interesting idea, trying to figure out how relevant it is or isn't.
Yeah, and
Raul says it was close to 875.
It was. I'm about to show you actually right now how close it was.
Yep.
1 second.
Yeah, Julie made a really kick-ass map.
Yeah.
Because I do not get along well with these coordinates and a map. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but JB really was doing them, I mean,
JB was doing. Well, he was using the military version, which confused me even more.
Right.
I'm like, you guys just put some dots on a piece of paper, and I'll figure out where that is. That's all I got.
Can you guys see this? This is right down here. Is where the pelvic bones were. It's close. I mean, it's not right on, but this is the location of the arrow. It's pretty close. See, I think the pelvic bones would be about here.
Mm-hmm.
So within running distance,
Yeah.
Well, that's a little too close to the road. Let's drag it back here and do something. It's a little more private. There's pelvic bones found there. What did happen there? It's pretty close. So it's interesting, if nothing else.
And you're right, Rachel. That's what he said he was doing that day, was going bow hunting. So,
yep.
And again, he's not the only bow hunter up there, obviously, but it's an interesting idea that arrow could be involved.
There's lots of shotgun shells found there as well, out in the quarry, just randomly. Why are all these shotgun shells out in the quarry? What are people doing out there? They can't be shooting anything. It's just freaking dirt and rock and whatever. There's nothing there. What are they? I don't know what they're shooting at, but who knows? It's interesting, at least. But I really
do. You know what, Kimberly? That's a good question. Maybe Rule knows that off the top of his head. Where's the arrow now? Rule, do you remember in the ledger if the arrow is still in there, or was it? I don't remember.
In the new one that they just, I don't think it is.
I don't know if I marked it. I've got Post-it notes on everything.
Well, you got encyclopedias. What are you talking about? Your whole damn house is full of them damn things. Color coordinated.
I know. Here's one of my Making a Murderer binders. See that?
It's all color coordinated.
That's one.
She's organized more than freaking Martha Stewart.
No. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, could she have stopped to take photos as a witness stated, and then accidentally shot with the arrow, finish off a blow to the head by the car door? Who knows? I really think that the thing that makes the most sense to me, there's an arrow, there's bow hunter, there's a hole in that in the bumper of the car where you can clearly see that something went in and was pulled out, because it's bending the bumper outwards as it was pulled out. There's Fix-A-Flat, and then there's that big clump of yellow shit that looks like Fix-A-Flat, the foaming Fix-A-Flat that's spun out of a hole. So it all kind of goes together with me with this theory in my head, and it doesn't match with Ryan. Unfortunately, it's very good with Bobby, but not with Ryan. So
Right.
that's why I keep saying Bobby looks so good for this. If I could just get over the day planner stuff, or find a way to connect Bobby and Ryan together, it'd be on. But I can't.
Yeah,
Maybe they
there
ran
was
into each other.
the light assembly was out of the front of the car, and it was placed. It was found in the back of the RAV. Somebody asked a question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys. So yeah,
Actually, kids,
there was damage, and then along with that, there's where Ryan's shady as shit again, because Ryan said that she filed an insurance claim for that prior to this time, and never got it fixed. Just took the check. Well, then Zellner has now discovered that that was a crock of shit. She checked with the insurance company, and there was never a claim filed for that. But what was it? A windshield wiper or something stupid?
Yeah,
She
yeah,
tried to
a
file a
windshield
claim
wiper.
for. So Ryan lied about that, about the damage. So there's another instance where Ryan was trying to, divert the conversation and just talk on his ass, basically.
Too many details, too much information that
Mhm.
can be verified or disproven, and especially if it's disproven, he's lying. And there's no good reason to lie to the police
Yeah.
about something like this. There's just not, unless you're hiding something. So Ryan just looks way too good. I can't let him go.
Thank you, Rule.
His case needs to
I
go.
thank you for posting that. And so it is still in custody. That's interesting. That's good to know.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
it's 3:00 in the morning, and I got to get up at ass crack 30. So,
Oh my gosh, it's been so good. I want to talk to you some more. Pick your brain.
you know what? Friend request my ass on Facebook, YouTube. Let's do this
I
more
will.
often.
Thank you so
I'm
very
really
much.
excited. I'm glad I finally got to meet you. And I look forward to talking to you again. You're a ton of fun.
Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
very
you.
much.
How did you guess my weight?
What did you say?
Oh my
That's my weight.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
All right, kids. All right, everybody. I love you very much. You'll be seeing a lot more of me real soon. But for right now, Mama's going to bed.
good night, Mama.
Good night, Casey.
Thank you
Bye,
very
kids.
much for coming and joining us.
Thank you.
Been awesome.